Welcome to a MazdaSpeed or MPS buyer's guide. This has got to be for your Gen 1, your Gen 2, and your Speed 6. This was requested by one of us, and we got to cover, what features, what optional extras to look out for, common problems, signs that it's a good car, signs that it's a bad car. Let's go. So I want this to be a pretty damn comprehensive guide, and I've actually got a comment pinned in the top of the comment section down below. Now, if you have any extra tips and tricks or things to look out for that I don't know about that I haven't said, reply to that comment with them. Some people looking to buy a MazdaSpeed, they can watch this video, then go to that comment and see all these other cool tips and tricks. So first of all, let's try to find what speed you want to buy. So if you still don't know if you want a Gen 1, Gen 2, Speed 6, I've actually done a video like that before. I'll leave that down in the description. However, this is like, for instance, that you want to buy Gen 1. What optional features should I look out for? Let's go into that. So for every single one of them, Speed 6 included, they're all 2.3 turbos, all of them are manual, there's nothing big like that. Though while every other country got 263 horsepower on the 3s and 274 horsepower on the 6s, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain only got 256 horsepower. As of why, I have no idea. So if you are in New Zealand, most of them are actually imports from Japan, so they'll be that full 263 or 274 horse. But let's talk about some options. Let's talk about colors first. So for your Gen 1, there's red, there's grey, white, black, cosmic blue, America and maybe some other countries, I don't know. You got silver, Japan, this dark purple, and New Zealand and Australia, Aurora blue, very nice. Literally, this is the same color McLaren uses. I'm not lying. McLaren owners literally buy Mazda Aurora blue to touch up their paint. Then the Gen 2, of course, you had that blue, you had red, black, silver, and white. The Speed 6, we've got red, black, grey, white, silver, and this quite rare color, it's sort of like an eggplanty color. So now let's talk, optional features, what, options you should look out for. This is mostly for the Gen 1 in New Zealand. Now, you can either have a cloth or leather suede interior. There's keyless entry and push start, which kind of often breaks. There's auto wipers and lights that you can option. And in the JDM Japanese variants, there are screens you can get. If you're in the UK, the main thing is called the Aero Pack, so that gets you these really small mirrors that are hard to see out. They're really cute though. You've got some eye-bark lowering springs and a full-size spoiler. What options on a Gen 2? There's auto lights and wipers available, electric driver's seat, keyless entry and push start. While in the Speed 6, you can choose between cloth or leather interior, keyless entry and have a screen. But now let's get into common problems, and if you're finding this video useful or helpful, surely drop a like. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. So I've done 2 videos already on these. For a more in-depth explanation and possible easy fixes, you should definitely watch them. I should have them in the description below. Let's go through them. Timing chain. This doesn't apply if you're buying a 2010 plus car. So usually they'll go out between 140 and 170,000 kilometers. Though it does vary. I've seen commonly between 100 to 210,000. How do you know it's going bad? Well, you start up and you'll hear rattling from the timing side of the engine. Another
really
very common one is turbos. These tend to go out at between 140,000 Ks and 150,000 Ks. Though, I've seen as little as 30k. Yeah, don't worry too much, because if the worst comes to worst and it does blow, spend a couple $100 on a used OEM one. And now, here's the thing, right? With these, there'll be some dark blue smoke. The car should drive fine. If the owner sees blue smoke coming out, they might think that they've, tossed the engine because it's burning oil. But here's one thing, right? If your car's got, for instance, worn out piston rings, yes, it will smoke because it's burning oil. But generally, the smoke will be grey. The only times the smoke is dark blue from a blown engine is typically when it's really bad. So, you know, it won't really run that well at all. It will burn through a whole ton of oil. So yeah, you know, if you see dark blue smoke, but the car runs fine, it boosts fine, it's not burning through too much oil, it probably is the turbo. Another thing, rust. It's a Mazda, yep, rust. So look around, you know, your wheel arches, your sill, and then another thing, if it's debadged, look around those holes, because a lot of times people don't cover them up and it starts to rust. So yeah, if there's no rust on the car, that's a big plus. That is a big plus. One problem is your rear motor mounts. So basically, you know, they soften over time, and then to test for it, you'll want someone to rev up the engine while you're outside, and you can watch it. If the engine starts twisting around a lot, that's probably your rear motor mount. Another thing, you're probably wondering if you're buying a higher mileage one, you know, when do the engines blow? From a lot of engine rebuilds, I hear it's usually the piston rings. Here in New Zealand, I've typically noticed that they blow up between 210,000 kilometers and 230. Though, you know, I see between 180,000 Ks and 280,000 Ks. So yeah, just if you're buying one with that many high kilometers, just be wary. You know, because I see a ton of people in New Zealand paying 9,000 New Zealand dollars for one with 200,000 Ks, and I'm like, bruh. In fact, right, one of my mates was saying about his mate, he saw a Speeds 3 for sale. I was like, oh, this is so good. You know, it had a little bit of crash damage. I had 280,000 Ks on it.
Nope.
And it was $6 grand. 280,000 Ks. And it had crash damage. It's got a blow up. And what's more, I actually talked to the guy who was selling it. He said it was like cutting out or stalling when he drives. Yeah, he didn't know that.
Terrorists win.
Another problem could be the clutch, but they're pretty good. You know, 280,000 Ks generally, obviously it depends on how it's treated. Let's talk about some bad signs or some good signs to tell you if the car might be good or bad. First of all, if it's like, you know, heavily modified, kind of isn't ideal, you know. It puts the engine under more stress. And, you know, all these mods could have been really bodged. And chances are if it's modified, you know, they're an enthusiastic driver, to say the least. Another sign, if there's high pressure fuel pump internals installed aftermarket and nothing else, that's a really good sign. It shows that the owner knew what they were doing and they did preventative maintenance to protect the car. Now, if there's an aftermarket intake with no aftermarket high pressure fuel pump internals, it's alright. It's just not perfect. It's just something to note. However, if there's any more engine mods without a high pressure fuel pump internal than just an intake, I wouldn't want to buy that. They don't really know what they're doing. Though I must say, if it's just, you know, a muffler delete, resonator delete, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine not to have high pressure fuel pump internals with them. Another thing, sort of like the intake, is if it has a vent to atmosphere blow-off valve. You know, it's fine, it's not ideal. If it's a reset valve, that's perfect. It's just something to note. This is the big thing I want you to look out for, is maintenance, oil changes. You know, every 5,000 kilometers, at the most every 8,000 kilometers. And if it's more than that,
nope.
Run. Just run. Maintenance is a big thing on these. And just, you know, ask what oil have you been putting in. Generally it should be 5W30, perhaps 5W40. This is one thing I found really useful, okay? I was trying to buy a Speed 3. And this person was messaging me about theirs, and this is something you've got to do. You've got to stalk them, you've got to find their Instagram, you've got to find their Facebook, you've got to find their TikTok. And that's exactly what I did. I found their TikTok, and I saw videos of it when they had it running with no oil in it. Yeah. I saw videos where it had been rear-ended by a truck, and they said it had never been in an accident. So yeah. And that's just... If it's a Speed 3, it's probably a car person, they probably put it on their social media. That actually is a really good tip. Funny thing is, it actually blew up and they wanted $5,800 for it. Dreaming. More signs to look out for is if it's got an OTS tune. This is, you know, a Cobb or a Versa tune. It's not a good sign, you should really have a Pro tune. And then it's just like any car really, you know, if it has paint swirls, perhaps not the most taking care of it. You know, if there are pictures of it in the sun, have they got their windows ajar? That's a really good sign. Does it have one of those dash windscreen protective things? And another really good thing is tires, you know, one of the most important parts of the car's safety, and they're running on some cheap ass tires you've never heard of. Just kind of shows those run pretty cheaply, but some nice quality rubber. That's a good sign. And also one thing, now here's some things that may worry you that aren't actually an issue. I want to talk about the clutch. It is actually a very mechanical clutch, so if you think it feels weird, it's very normal. It's just, yeah, it's a raw car. People say, you know, it can be a little bit hard to put into first. That's normal, you know, obviously not like you need to absolutely like, you know, shove it in, but just a little bit weird. I've heard some people say that if you try to absolutely slam it into second when it's cold, it'll grind a bit, but you really shouldn't be trying to bang gears when it's cold. And one thing, if you do see it grinding, like when you shift gears and it starts to grind, just check if it has a short shifter, because a lot of the time, you know, there's adjustable short shifter plates and they vary between 20 to 30%, and if you put it up to 30%, it's quite often to see that it starts to grind because it's just shifting too fast, and you just need to lower it to like 25%. And one thing now, prices for New Zealand, because this is what I know about, and I know MazdaSpeeds are pretty big here in New Zealand, so yeah, these are general prices, you know, it's just what they're worth, sort of. If you're looking at sort of under 9k, that's for, you know, that 200,000k mark. You know, I wouldn't do that because they're probably gonna blow up, so I wouldn't buy it. Honestly, I'd just buy it already blown up one for way cheaper. If you're spending 10 to 12.5k, that's sort of your, you know, 120 to 140,000 Ks. 12.5 to 15k, usually that's on 95 to 120. And if you're spending over 15k, you want a clean car, you know, perhaps under 80,000 Ks, really nice. If you're buying a blown up one, okay? A lot of people seem to think that the blown up Speed 3 is worth a whole ton. Like I said before, that one that blown up 5.8k, you're dreaming. They're not worth it. If it's got a reg, you know, it's probably about that 4k mark. If it's not regged, remember, you know, it's gotta cost $700 and up to have it revinned. And that was a complete buyer's guide to the Mazda Speed 3. If you did enjoy, hit the like, hit the subscribe. See you next time.